Have you ever looked at a recipe and thought, this sounds great, but it's meant for a family of 4? Or maybe you found yourself staring into your fridge, wondering if it's even worth cooking just for one person. If that's you, you're not alone. Cooking for one can feel like a chore, especially when most advice out there seems to assume you've got a crowd to feed. But here's the truth. Cooking for yourself can be one of the most empowering and rewarding things you do for your health and your happiness. Let's be real. After a long day, it's tempting to reach for something quick and easy, maybe a frozen meal or a bowl of cereal. I get it. I've been there. But what if I told you that cooking for one doesn't have to be complicated, time-consuming, or expensive? In fact, with a few simple strategies, it can actually be easier than cooking for a family, and a lot more fun. Now, you might be thinking, sure, but is it even worth it health-wise? Absolutely. In fact, studies consistently show that people who prepare meals at home tend to eat healthier overall. According to research published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, home-cooked meals are generally lower in calories, sugar, and fat, and they're linked to a lower risk of developing chronic illnesses like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Even just a few home-cooked meals a week can make a noticeable difference. In this video, we're going to explore how to make cooking for one not just doable, but enjoyable. We'll talk about smart grocery shopping, simple recipe ideas, time-saving tricks, and even how to make your meals feel special, because you deserve that. And don't worry, we'll keep it practical, realistic, and focused on what actually works. Before we keep going, I'd love your help with something. If you're enjoying this video so far, comment Y below. If not, comment N. It helps me know what's working and what to improve. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Now let's dive deeper. Let's start with the heart of it all, your kitchen habits. Because when you're cooking for one, your mindset makes a huge difference. If you approach it like a chore, it'll feel like one. But if you see it as an act of self-care, everything changes. One woman I know, Clara, is in her late 60s. She used to rely on canned soup and toast for dinner. Then one day, she decided to make herself a proper stir-fry, just for her. She told me later, I felt like I mattered again, like I was worth the effort. And that's what this is really about, showing yourself that you matter. Now let's talk about planning. When you're cooking for one, the biggest game changer is learning how to plan small. You don't need a detailed meal plan for the week, but it helps to have a general idea of a few key meals you'll enjoy and reuse. Think of it like a mini menu, just 3 or 4 simple dishes you can rotate. For example, a hearty lentil soup, a veggie-packed omelet, a stir-fry, and maybe a roasted chicken breast you can use for multiple meals. Simple, right? Here's a fun trick I learned from a retired chef who started teaching cooking classes for singles. He said, cook once, eat twice, but don't eat the same thing twice. What he meant was this: cook a base ingredient, say a batch of quinoa or a tray of roasted veggies, and use it in different ways throughout the week. One day, the quinoa is part of a salad. Another day, it's the base for a warm grain bowl. Add a new sauce, a different protein, and suddenly it's a whole new dish. Let's take it one step further. Let's make it easy to say yes to cooking. One way to do that is by creating a kitchen setup that works for you. Clear out old gadgets you never use. Make space for a small cutting board, a good knife, a saucepan, and maybe an air fryer or toaster oven if you've got one. You don't need a big kitchen or fancy tools. You just need a space that invites you in. If it helps, light a candle or put on your favorite music while you cook. Turn it into a ritual, not a routine. And yes, let's talk about portioning. One reason many people avoid cooking for one is they worry about waste. But here's the thing, most recipes can be scaled down or repurposed. Leftovers aren't just leftover. They're ingredients for tomorrow. That leftover roasted salmon? Flake it into a salad or scramble it with eggs. That extra rice? Turn it into a quick veggie fried rice. You're not just cooking, you're creating flexibility. As we go along, I'll be sharing easy, delicious recipes that don't require a ton of ingredients or time. These aren't meals that'll leave you with a mountain of dishes or ingredients you'll only use once. We're talking practical, real-world meals, like 5-minute skillet dinners, no-chop soups, and 2-ingredient desserts. And one last thing before we wrap up this part, remember that cooking is a form of connection. Even if you're cooking for just yourself, you're participating in a tradition that links us all together. You're nourishing your body, yes, but also your soul. One man I spoke to, Alan, said that after his wife passed, he avoided the kitchen for months. But once he started experimenting with simple recipes, he found joy again. I wasn't just filling my stomach, he said. I was remembering how to care. So if you've been hesitant to step back into the kitchen, or maybe just bored with the same old routine, stick around. In the next part, we'll get into specific recipes, smart ingredient choices, and how to save time without sacrificing flavor. See you there. Before we begin, I want to make one thing clear. This video is for informational purposes only and is based on publicly available research. Everyone's health is different, so always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, or exercise routine. Scientific knowledge is always evolving, and what works for one person may not work for another. Now let's get into the really good stuff. How to make healthy meals that are fast, satisfying, and designed just for you. Let's start with breakfast. Most of us have a bit of a routine in the morning, but when you're cooking for one, it's easy to fall into the habit of skipping it altogether. I had a friend named Margaret, 77 years old, living alone. For years, she'd just have coffee in the morning. No food. She said it felt like too much trouble to cook. But when she started making simple one-pan breakfasts, like a veggie scramble or overnight oats, her energy came back. She said, "It's like I finally gave my body a reason to wake up." If you're in a hurry, overnight oats can be a lifesaver. Just mix rolled oats, a bit of Greek yogurt, milk or a milk alternative, a drizzle of honey and fruit. Pop it in the fridge overnight. No cooking, no cleanup. It's creamy, filling, and loaded with fiber, which, by the way, is crucial for heart health and digestion, especially as we age. According to the National Institute on Aging, most older adults don't get enough fiber, and a simple breakfast like this can help close that gap. Now for lunch. The goal here is balance, protein, healthy fat, and fiber. One easy way to do that: grain bowls. Start with a base like brown rice, quinoa, or even farro. Add some roasted veggies. You can make a batch early in the week, a handful of greens, and a protein, grilled chicken, tuna, beans, whatever you love. Top it off with a simple homemade dressing, olive oil, lemon juice, maybe a bit of mustard or garlic. Done. I once met a retired teacher named Paul who hated cooking. But when he started prepping these grain bowls on Sunday afternoons, he told me, it was like someone handed me the keys to my own health. He'd rotate ingredients, sometimes adding feta, sometimes sliced apples or a boiled egg. Variety without extra work. Let's talk about grocery shopping next. When you're only buying for yourself, it's easy to overbuy and end up throwing food away. The trick: shop with flexibility in mind. Choose ingredients that can work in multiple meals. Eggs, canned beans, whole grains, frozen veggies, and a few good condiments can carry you through the week. One study from the Harvard School of Public Health found that keeping versatile ingredients on hand is one of the best ways to reduce food waste and improve nutrition. And don't be afraid of the freezer. It's your best friend when you're cooking for one. Got extra soup? Freeze it in small containers. Found a great deal on fresh salmon? Freeze individual portions. Buy frozen veggies and fruit. They're picked at peak ripeness and flash frozen, which means they often have more nutrients than the stuff that's been sitting on the shelf for days. Plus, you can grab what you need without worrying about spoilage. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I want something tasty too. Of course, healthy doesn't mean bland. One secret? Season well. Herbs and spices bring life to a meal without adding calories or sodium. Turmeric, for example, is anti-inflammatory. Garlic supports immune function. Cinnamon helps with blood sugar control. These aren't just flavor boosters, they're functional foods backed by science. There's a woman I know, Lisa, who makes a chickpea stew with turmeric, cumin, garlic, and just a splash of coconut milk. It's warm, comforting, and full of protein and fiber. She makes a pot on Monday and eats it in different ways all week. One day over rice, another with a piece of crusty bread. It tastes better the next day, she laughs. And she's right, stews and soups often do. Let's talk dinner. A simple sheet pan meal is one of the easiest ways to feed yourself without much cleanup. Toss a piece of fish or chicken, some veggies like broccoli, bell peppers, or carrots, and a drizzle of olive oil and seasoning onto a pan. Roast at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. That's it. While it cooks, you've got time to relax or call a friend. And the result? A hot, homemade meal that feels like it came from a restaurant. Now, I know some people struggle with appetite later in life. That's totally normal. As we age, taste buds change, digestion slows, and medication can affect hunger. But skipping meals can lead to weakness, fatigue, and even unintentional weight loss. The key is to keep meals appealing. Use colorful ingredients, include a variety of textures, and don't shy away from a little healthy fat, like avocado or olive oil, which adds flavor and helps with vitamin absorption. One gentleman, Harold, told me he started losing weight after retirement. Not intentionally, he just didn't feel like eating. But once he began cooking simple meals again, using spices and a little creativity, his appetite came back. I realized food wasn't just fuel, he said. It was joy. And let's not forget about dessert. Yes, even when cooking for one, you can have a little something sweet. A sliced banana with peanut butter and dark chocolate chips. A baked apple with cinnamon. A square of good dark chocolate. These are satisfying without sending your blood sugar on a roller coaster. So now that we've covered meals throughout the day, what's next? Well, coming up, we'll tackle one of the biggest challenges in cooking for one, staying motivated. Because let's be honest, some days, it just feels easier to not bother. But we'll look at ways to overcome that, and I'll share more real-life stories, tips, and a few mindset shifts that can make all the difference. Stick around, because this next part might be the one that changes everything. Some days, let's face it, cooking for one just feels lonely. You open the fridge, stare at the ingredients, and think, what's the point? If you've ever felt that, you're not alone. It's not just about the food, it's the silence. The missing laughter at the dinner table. The feeling that the effort might not be worth it if no one else is enjoying it too. But here's something I want you to hear loud and clear. You are worth the effort. Nourishing your body, even when it's just you, is an act of self-respect. And once you start treating it that way, something shifts. Let me tell you about Gerald. He lost his wife 5 years ago and hadn't cooked a real meal since. I lived on sandwiches and cereal, he told me. But one day, his daughter gave him a cookbook with handwritten notes and little sticky tabs on her favorite pages. He tried one recipe, just one, and something clicked. It felt like I was reconnecting with her, and with myself, he said. Cooking became his daily ritual, a way to feel grounded. There's power in routine. When you build a rhythm around your meals, maybe prepping on Sundays, setting the table even just for yourself, playing soft music while you cook, it turns an ordinary task into a comforting ritual. Studies show that routines can ease anxiety, reduce feelings of isolation, and even help regulate sleep and digestion. It's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat it. But motivation isn't only emotional, it's also physical. Did you know that preparing your own meals is associated with better nutrient intake, lower body weight, and reduced risk of chronic diseases? According to a 2014 study in Public Health Nutrition, people who cook more frequently at home consume fewer calories, sugars, and fats compared to those who rely heavily on takeout. That's a big deal, especially as our metabolism naturally slows with age. One trick that helps: making meals visible and inviting. Keep fresh fruit on the counter. Prep a colorful salad and store it in a clear container. When healthy food looks appealing and is easy to grab, you're more likely to eat it, even when your energy's low. And here's a little psychological nudge: plate your food nicely. Even if it's just a bowl of soup, pour it into a pretty bowl. Use a cloth napkin. Light a candle if you feel fancy. Why? Because presentation changes perception. One study from Oxford University found that people rated the same meal as tasting better when it was plated thoughtfully. It's a small act that makes a big difference. Still, we all have those days when nothing sounds good and everything feels like a chore. On those days, lean on your rescue meals. These are quick, easy recipes you can make without thinking. A veggie omelet, a tuna and white bean salad, a simple stir-fry with whatever veggies and protein you've got lying around. Keep a list on your fridge for when decision fatigue hits. Now let's talk about mindset. Because this isn't just about recipes, it's about how you see yourself. Cooking for one isn't a sign that something's missing. It's a declaration: I'm still here and I still matter. Shifting that mindset can turn cooking into an act of joy. Like a retired nurse I met at a wellness event. She started hosting solo supper nights. Just her, a new recipe, and sometimes a call with a friend over video. She said it gave her a sense of occasion, something to look forward to. It made me feel alive again, she smiled. And if cooking feels overwhelming because of physical limitations, like arthritis, fatigue, or memory issues, there are ways to adapt. Use pre-chopped veggies. Invest in a slow cooker or instant pot. Batch cook and freeze meals in single portions. And don't underestimate the power of a simple sandwich made with love. It all counts. If memory or focus is a concern, try writing down your steps or reading your recipe aloud. Keep your kitchen organized so things are easy to find. Cooking doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful. And don't forget to celebrate the wins. Every time you choose to cook something nourishing, no matter how simple, you're investing in your health. You're saying yes to energy, to independence, to vitality. One last thought here before we move into our final part, connection. Even if you're cooking for one, you don't have to do it alone. There are virtual cooking classes, local community centers that host meal prep meetups, and even Facebook groups where seniors share what they're making for dinner. I know one woman who started texting her sister a photo of every dinner she made. It was silly at first, she said, but now it's our little tradition, and it keeps me motivated. Sometimes the smallest gestures bring the biggest joy. So, where do we go from here? In our final segment, we'll pull everything together. I'll give you simple takeaways you can start today, recap what we've learned, and leave you with one powerful insight that might just change the way you think about aging and eating for good. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Let's take a deep breath together. You've made it this far, and I hope you're feeling a little more inspired, a little more empowered. Cooking for one isn't about filling an empty plate. It's about filling your life with color, care, and confidence. It's about claiming joy in the everyday. So let's gently recap what we've uncovered together. We started by facing the challenge, how lonely or pointless it can feel to cook for just yourself. But we flipped that script. We saw how choosing to cook for one is an act of self-care and self-love. We talked about easy strategies, batch cooking, freezing portions, choosing recipes that are simple yet nourishing. Then we dove into the emotional and physical motivations. Cooking is not only a way to fuel your body, it's a way to ground your mind. Science backs this up. Regular home-cooked meals are linked to improved mental well-being, better nutrition, and even a longer life. And in part 3, we face the hard truth. Some days, motivation runs low. But with a mindset shift, a few comfort recipes, and a dash of routine, you can transform mealtime into something meaningful again. We heard about Gerald and people just like you, who turned cooking into connection and healing. Now here in our final stretch, I want to leave you with something practical, something you can start today, even before this video ends. Go to your kitchen and pick just one ingredient you already have. Maybe it's a bag of frozen peas. Maybe it's a can of beans or a single sweet potato. Think of one simple way to turn that into a meal you'll enjoy. It doesn't have to be fancy. Maybe just heat those peas with a little butter and cracked pepper. Or mash that sweet potato with a sprinkle of cinnamon and a dollop of yogurt. That's your first step. Do that, and you're already cooking for one in the best way, with care. And here's a little secret. It's not about perfection. You don't need to be a gourmet chef. You don't need 5-star ingredients. You just need intention. A willingness to say, I deserve this. Because you do. Let's talk about joy. Joy doesn't come from extravagant meals or perfect health. It comes from those tiny, consistent choices. Lighting a candle for yourself at dinner. Trying a new herb in your scrambled eggs. Calling a friend to say, hey, I made the best soup today. Those are the things that matter. And remember, every healthy bite you take, every meal you prepare, is a building block for your future. A 2021 study published in Nutrients showed that seniors who consistently prepared meals at home had significantly lower rates of frailty and cognitive decline. Your choices today shape your independence and vibrancy tomorrow. So ask yourself this: what kind of life do I want to build, one meal at a time? I know a woman named Susan, 72, who started a ritual called Friday Feasts for One. Every Friday, she tries a new recipe, sets the table, and even dresses up a little, just for herself. She told me, I realized I was worth celebrating. So now I celebrate me. Isn't that beautiful? You don't need a crowd to make a meal meaningful. You just need a reason, and that reason is you. Now, before we go, here's one more thing I'd love for you to try. This week, plan just 3 meals ahead of time. Nothing complicated. Maybe Monday lunch is a quinoa bowl, Wednesday dinner is lentil soup, and Friday is breakfast for dinner. Write it down. Put it on the fridge. And when the time comes, follow through. Each meal is a promise to yourself, a promise that says, I matter. Because you do. And one last scientific gem before we wrap up. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health confirms that individuals who eat more home-cooked meals tend to live longer and have lower risks of chronic illness. It's not about rigid diets or fancy trends. It's about consistency, nourishment, simplicity. So, whether you're cooking with joy, cooking through grief, or cooking to heal, just remember this. You are not alone. You are capable. And your health and happiness are worth every chop, stir, and simmer. We'd really love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future topics or questions you want answered, write to us in the comments below. We're here to help, and your input could inspire our next video. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on more practical tips for healthy aging. Here's to living your best life at any age.